with a pack of Trident under my pillow for the first 6 months I was married. I don't know why I say I slept. I didn't sleep. I slept the next day on my lunch hour because I didn't want him to know I snore. I just lay there all posed up. Trying to make sure my breathing was soft, like Jesus did it like that every night on purpose. And inevitably, I'd fall asleep, and I'd start snoring, and I'd suck that gum right in the back of my throat. Then I jump up because I think I'm dying. Then he jumps up, and I have to convince him we're being robbed. And he said that made sense. He heard a chainsaw. Yes, as I networked around the room, surprisingly not anyone said to me, "Hey, I bet you're from Detroit." No, as you can tell with this accent, I am from Atlanta, Georgia. And I come from a long line of sweet tea drinking, water tower painting kind of people. You heard about the things in entertainment that I've been able to do over the last few years, but before that, I shared a lot of similar jobs that are in this room. And I know the one thing that causes stress and change to happen in your everyday work life is what? People. People is what causes that. Every single time you poll a room, you can ask, what is your favorite thing about your job? You know what they're going to say? People. I just love people, Lisa. I'm a people person. That's why I do what I do. And you can poll that same group of people 4 days later and ask them, what's the most annoying part of your job? You know what they're going to say? People. You know, if it wasn't for people, I'd love this job. Right? And people ask me all the time, Lisa, I know that you know that communication, as a speaker, you got to know that communication is the most important relationship skill that we can have. I disagree. I don't think that it is. I don't think that communication is the most important relationship skill that will help you decrease the stress that you have and increase the happiness of working with people on your job. I believe that connecting is the most important relationship skill that you can have. Coming to the line of where people are, meeting them right there, leaning into what they're giving you, and exchanging value. That's connecting. Many years ago, I won't tell you my age, I'm in the beautiful over 40 crowd. But many years ago, when I first started working in family and community partnerships and social services, I remember being at the ripe old age of 24. A lot of wisdom, huh? Ripe old age of 24, I was put over a team of women who had been doing a very thankless job very well for a very long period of time. Long before I got there. And I remember the assistant team leader who was assigned to me. Her name was Miss Carolyn, who everybody lovingly called Miss C. And she was a tiny frame little woman. I remember she had this wiry gray hair that she kept in a bun on top of her head at all times. Real neat as a pin. And she had this great smile. Y'all, that her whole face got involved in. Who knows someone like that? Like their whole face, right? Like her eyes would squint and her cheeks shot up. And I saw that smile a lot as she worked with families to build partnerships with our community and resources that would bring them together to help them build better lives. I loved to watch her work. The other thing that I noticed about Miss C is that she kind of kept me at arm's distance. Right? Can you imagine anybody not wanting to be with me all the time? She did. She just kind of kept me at a distance. And I did not know why. I'm a very driven person. How many of you are like that? Driven, determined. Listen, when I have a task, I can't think of anything else. Like, I got to get it done. We got to get it done. Let's move. I'm results driven. And back then, I was young, y'all. I did not know how to balance that quality in my life. I didn't. And so every morning, I would come into my office, and I would grab my legal pad, This was before we had smartphones. I would grab my legal pad and I would head over to Miss C's office and I would just begin rattling down everything we had on our agenda. This is where I need to be. This is where you need to be. This is where we need to be 6 months from now. This is how we're going to help families and this is what we're going to do. And y'all, she just ignored me. Every morning. I would be rattling off all that we had to accomplish and here's Miss C just wandering around the room. Watering the plants, opening the blinds, staring out the window. I was like, listen, I don't mean to be rude, but I think you're being rude to me. And I have never been bossy or unkind to you, Miss C. I don't know why you're always ignoring me when I come in here ready to work. And this is what she said to me. You come racing in here every morning to work and you never tell me good morning. I was like, what? She said, you never tell me good morning. It's like you don't even see me. You only see what I can do for you. Man, it was like a light switch went off. I knew that if I was going to have an effective relationship, not only with Miss C, but for the people that we were entrusted with in our county, that I was going to have to connect with her. And when I made connecting, not patronizing, not manipulating, but really connecting, when I came to the line of where she was and leaned into what she needed from me, and we began to exchange value, we developed a team that created numbers that became top in our agency. We also built a beautiful friendship. Years later, Miss C, she retired and I moved on to a different agency and I was no longer with them anymore. And sadly, as life does, it kind of got in the way and Miss C and I even lost touch. Until one day, I was sitting in a hospital room with my 6-month-old son who was in ICU. And I was sitting in a very dark room and it was very quiet except for an occasional beep from a machine that he was hooked to. I'd been up all night long and now I'm watching the sun come up. And just as it got to the top of the window, the phone rang. I picked it up without even the energy to say hello. And from the other end of the phone, this is what I heard. Good morning. Miss C had heard that I'd had another baby. And although he was going to be fine years later down the road, right now he was very sick. And she knew that I needed a good morning, that I needed to connect. See, in one hand, I held a bunch of papers that had everything in it that you would need to know about what was going on with my child. From a team of doctors who had just swept through there and had explained everything to me thoroughly, communicating. And on the other hand, I held a receiver that carried only 2 words that actually seemed oddly out of place for my situation. And yet they brought all the hope in the world. They were the answer. And this began to change everything I did. Every life decision I made after that, I based on this experience. I learned that connecting is powerful. I learned in personally that was the truth. I learned professionally that was the truth. I learned that it could take bosses and make them valued mentors. I learned that it could take our coworkers and make them amazing, eager partners, and our clients and customers, it could turn them into loyal friends. Listen, as I close, my hope being here with you today is that we've connected over a few laughs and stories, and that you know that you matter, and not for the job you do, not for your work, but for your worth. And if no one has told you today, let me be the first. Good morning.